This is Real Women, celebrating women in film. My name's Brenda Daly, and I'm your host. And we are here to celebrate women who do independent film or even feature films, and to celebrate their struggle when they're making these films, because I think women have a unique struggle. So today we're talking to Ranelle Golden, and she has done a feature film, and it's called Harvey. And I know this isn't her first film, but we're going to bring her on and we're going to say hello to Ranelle. Hi, Ranelle. How are you?
Good. I'm so happy to be here. How are you doing?
We're doing great. So I'm super excited about this film. I watched the trailer. We're going to put the trailer at the
Mm.
end of the interview so that other people can
Cool.
watch it. And but I wanted to know what inspired you to make Harvey.
Um, Honestly, it was the pandemic. We were working on a film called Empath, and we had an investor, and we had just filmed our proof of concept right before the shutdown started in early 2020. And then the shutdown started. The investor ran. He's like, I can't invest right now. I don't know what the future holds. And a few months passed, and we were like, it's not getting better. And Empath, I happened to have written with my 21-year-old son.
Well, that's fun.
And he was like, we shouldn't let this stop us. And we were brainstorming. We were like, well, what do we have left? And what can we do with what we have left? And obviously, with the pandemic, we wanted something that was on the easier side in the sense that not a lot of locations, not a lot of key cast or starring cast. And so we're like, well, what's around us? And we threw out different sites and we settled on the bowling alley. And we came up with a story and we wrote it in 9 days. And then I talked to my friend Johnny Alonzo, who was involved with the other film. And I was like, you know what? We can't make that till we get an investor back because that one had a bigger budget. Would you want to do this with me? And he said yes. And we hit the ground running. And I think within 3 months, we got our SAG approval, one of the first ones in Florida and in the pandemic in general. And we made the film. Everybody was healthy and safe. And it released this past January, January 7th or something, I think it was. And I mean, the rest is history. We were very excited to bring Harvey to life in the conditions that we did.
Yeah,
It
I feel
was
like
great.
everything when it comes to the pandemic, everybody has to be more condensed. And we were talking about how feature films now is like when they cast couples, they want them to be real couples or real
Oh,
families
wow.
because they're then it's less liability.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I haven't done that yet. And honestly, I had two films that I did in 2020, and last year both of them were in post. So I'm just now gearing up for my next projects. Um, but it's going to be interesting to see what is actually happening with like the union and how I'm going to have to cast these things. And of course, in writing them within reason, I had that in mind, like how many people do we have in the cast and things like that. But a lot of people I talk to, they're like, we're ready for bigger is better. And then boom, we have another surge. And that's not a possibility. So
It's
I'm
scary, isn't
hoping.
it? Yeah, it's very scary. So, how long have you been filmmaking?
I've been making films since I started writing in 2009, 2010. I had a performing arts school for 4 or 5 years before, and then I lost my eyesight and went blind, which it's
Oh,
a
no.
strange story, but I had to close the school while I was dealing with my health. And in that process, I ended up my daughter got me on, if I can say this, Facebook in writers groups, and I
Uh-huh.
met another person who was also struggling in life, and they were like, "Well, let's be miserable together and let's write." And before
That's
you knew
right.
it, we had written a bunch of feature films. We'd written a TV series, and I was like, "Okay, well, how do we sell these? What do we do?" And ended up directing my first short that I made to highlight a feature film because the director I hired didn't show up. And the DP I had hired, great guy, Emmy winner, knew his stuff. He's like, no, you direct it, you know it. I'll teach you the ropes as we go. And that was 2010, I think. And then from there, I'm like, oh my God, I love this. And I had gotten most of my eyesight back. I'm still partially blind, but
Mhm.
I got enough I can cause trouble in the world. And so that was the thing that led me to like taking classes and just learning everything I could learn. I became a
You
sponge,
you
and
know,
I've
it's
written over 50 different things now, including a few series, and I've directed like 28 different films, shorts,
wow.
features, series, and hopefully there'll be no stopping me. Except my own clumsy self. So,
No,
but
what's so funny is because I've been doing this podcast for a little while, and it feels like all the women that I talk to, they come by it through, adversity. I
yes.
the last girl I literally just interviewed her, she did her movie, and it's because she had cancer, and so
Oh,
she sat
wow.
there, was made her she wrote this film about, her, because she loves horror films, so she made this whole horror thing about this cancer, and it was, like, super interesting, and then
Oh,
another
wow.
girl, she's plays Hammerhead on Doom Patrol. I
Okay.
interviewed her, and she got that part. She'd been an actress her whole life, and she wasn't really, like, advancing. She did as quickly as she would like, and, she
Right.
got breast cancer, and so she went through chemo, and she
Ah.
lost all her hair. Well, guess what got her the part?
Oh, wow.
So
Oh my God,
and
those stories are amazing. They're
yeah,
so
and here they were
inspirational.
recovering, and then with you and your eyesight, I mean, I feel like, I mean, I lost my job due to COVID, so that was my first opportunity to direct a feature film, so I just finished that. But
I
it
love
but
it.
I feel like I feel it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if
Yeah.
you were
You
gonna
know
be
what? Adversity breeds inspiration or something like that. We get knocked down and we just get back up even taller than before, or I
or
don't know, but there's been
fearless.
no like stopping me. And I love hearing those stories because they empower us. We can go after our dreams. It's never too late. It doesn't matter what happened to you. And I know when I started getting my eyesight back, I had this motto that I lived with for a while, and it was like, if someone's not opening a door for me, I'm going to open my own door.
Or
And
kick it
I've been
down.
doing that ever since. Sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow, but you
Yeah.
don't stop, you keep going. And most recently I started writing with my kid who's become an adult through this process. And there's just something I love it. And he and we focus only on feature films while
Yeah.
he's in college. Of course, I can't interrupt that, but he's been with me and been kind of like my muse for all my crazy ideas. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
very
I have
cool.
a daughter who's an actor, so she's been
You
acting.
get it.
So, yeah, so she was the muse for my first 2 short films, and then when I
Oh,
did
I love
this,
it. I love it.
she couldn't do the film, but she did, second AD for me, and then she helped me with the inspiration of writing the story because she was like, "Oh, no, you have to do a women empowerment film." So that's what
Oh,
we
I
did.
love that.
So, yeah, so
Okay.
I feel like our kids are, I think as our kids are
Girls
really big
rule.
extensions of us. I mean, whether it's girls or boys, just the fact that and as a parent, if you can empower your kid to be interested in what you're interested in and have them excel, because it sounds like, our kids are gonna take it to the next level. Whatever
I
level we've
hope
taken it
so.
to, I think that's what you hope for as a parent, right?
I do, I really hope so, and
Yeah.
that
So what
that
is
would make me so happy.
so,
So, dad
what
wants an engineer, though, you never know.
well, sometimes you have to be both when you're filmmaking, that's for
You
sure.
do, you do, so my
So
daughter's a musician, and then she does other work, and then my son, he writes with me, he loves writing, but he's also going to college um, the engineer type
yeah,
thing, so, yeah,
definitely. But you know
yes,
what? He can live a full life and do both.
he can,
Nothing can stop him,
that's
really.
right,
Yeah,
that's right.
so what would you give a filmmaker just starting out, and since you have your son, if you were talking to your son and he was making his very first feature film all by himself, what would be the advice you'd give him?
I think it would be to be fearless. Stuff happens, but that stuff doesn't have to stop you. Um, and it's kind of like what I tell writers. It's like, just do it. Don't worry about the editing. Don't worry about the rewrites until you get that first draft out of you. Just go and do it. And, in my world, life is finite. And I'm keenly aware that I need to just do it, which can drive me to be a workaholic at the same time. But um, you got to do it, and you got to be your own biggest cheerleader. Like, you can't do things because you're waiting on other people to believe in you. You've got to believe in yourself. And if you know you have it in you, you'll get it done. And I believe that wholeheartedly. And I love like taking people under my wings and making them feel good. But I always let them know, I mean, you really do have to be your own cheerleader.
You have to be
And
your own cheerleader, but
sometimes in, oh,
good.
sorry.
No, no, go
But
ahead.
oh, okay. Well, and sometimes in this industry, the deeper you get into it, the people that you think are there for you or are your friends, you are often just flavor of the month for them. You're a stepping stone to the next thing they're going to do in their lives. So, all the more reason to know that you can depend on yourself. And I
I think
try to
it
keep that in mind.
I know sometimes it hurts a little bit, but I think too, sometimes it's okay.
Does
It's because
yes,
then you've done something for them and they've done something for you, and I feel like that is I call it
exactly.
creative currency. So, when
Yeah,
you've done
I
something
love
nice for
that.
somebody and then later on you might need something from them, they're always willing to help because you help them out. So as long as you keep it friendly and,
Yeah,
constructive because, I know we tend to be hard on ourselves. And I think
sure.
too, the older you get, the less you care about what everybody else is thinking, because
Boy, that's true.
it's like I'm just gonna do it, and if they don't like it, it's okay.
That's so true. It is so
Because
true.
everybody's
And
got an opinion, and everybody you make a film, you go through the whole process, the exercise of it all,
right.
and then when you get to the end, and then of course everybody's like, "Well, I could have done it better." It's like, then do it.
Yes. Yeah, it's so true. It is so true. One of the funny things that's been kind of interesting watching my son get involved in this though is, that saying, when you're making movies, there's three films. There's the one you write, the
Mhm.
one you shoot, and then the one that comes out of post. And I think for him, that's been, at times it's a little disappointing because you have something in your head as the writer that you hope to see. And if I'm directing, I mean, I try to get what I'm hoping to see. But very often it's what the editor, there's only so much magic they can do, and it's not always matching the original script. And, that was kind of true with Harvey too. Like, some of the things we wanted to do with the pandemic, we weren't able to do, like fill up the bowling alley. We had a very sparse bowling alley. So some of the scenes we wrote, we tried to shoot it in such a way that maybe you hear it, but you don't see it. And
Right.
just little things like that. But that's been an interesting thing to learn. And I have to let people know, like, don't be discouraged by that, because that end product may be better than what you wrote. You never know. It
Yeah,
isn't always, but it could
yeah,
be.
I'm a real proponent of I like to sit in the editing room. I know
Me too.
it really upset I mean, my DP was great, and actually because I was basically it was my first feature. I had directed other things, but it was my first feature, so not a lot of trust was given. And I get it. They don't know me.
Yeah.
People don't know
Yeah.
you, they don't get it, but it was funny because he's done big stuff, the DP, and so people would be on set,
Yeah.
they'd be giving me all this advice, and I'd just be looking at it, I'm not saying a word because I don't wanna cause problems, and then they would walk away, whoever it was, and then he'd say, "So what do you wanna do?"
Oh, that's
So and
nice.
it's nice to have that person
You
in
don't
your
always get
camp.
that. And one thing that I've made a decision, like in the future, when I do interview cameramen, because I've worked with about 10 different ones now, and the ones I love, I'll work with again and again. But um, I think when I interview them in the future, I'm going to be saying, like, what's your workflow? Because I tend to want to make shot lists, and I like to do, I like to see lighting plots, and I like to do blocking. I don't want to just show up and be like, okay, what are we going to film now? But some people, they have a different style, and you've got to make sure as a director that their style meshes with yours, or at least that there's a mutual respect there. And that's one of the things that's a little bit harder to find. And I know as I'm scouting for my DP for my next project, those are some questions I've been asking as it's more than just what's your reel and what equipment do you know how to use.
Well, I think too,
Um,
it's growth. Like every project, whether you're on your first or your 20th, every project
yeah,
you kind of grow and you know your system. And of course, me
yeah,
and my first one, I didn't really know my system.
me either.
And
Not at
so
all. Not
yeah,
at
so I
all.
and so I did have to learn. I had to learn to be a little tougher. And that was but that's okay because I needed to be a little tougher, and then I needed
Right.
to, calm down and realize that everybody's saying something because they wanna help, but at
Yeah.
the end of the day, you have like you said, you have to trust yourself, and at the end of the
Yeah.
day, y they have to trust you because you're the one who's there from beginning, middle to end.
Yeah, and that's one of my downfalls too I it's not a downfall, but I've had to learn to toughen up and not be afraid of making some of those tough calls, especially with the features. And the thing in this industry, and it's probably true in every industry, a lot of us have to learn the hard way. So we don't know that this is what we're going to face until we get there. And I noticed every project, things go beautifully, but there's always something that goes wrong, but it's always different than the last. And
Yeah.
that could be because you're learning from each project. I don't
Or
know,
just
but
the
yeah,
weather came up or you had to who
yeah,
knows? People got sick from COVID. I mean, there's so many
yes,
variables
yeah,
on set that you always like, "Okay, can we reshoot this scene with this
eh,
person not here and then go back
yeah.
later when they're" I mean, they're and of course, that's not cost effective, so you always have to think about, "Okay, what's the most cost effective way to
I
go?"
hate that part, but that
Yeah, me
part's so
too.
important, but, that part's, like, depressing because if somebody can't be there because maybe they got COVID, you really wanna shoot all the other elements of the scene and then there's when they're better so you can move on, but
If you can afford to
it's
go
so
back to
hard.
that location.
Right. Oh,
That's what
right, that's true too.
I mean, literally, like, there's a lot of stuff I would have liked to reshoot, but the thing is that my girlfriend sold that house, and I
Oh,
got the
oh, yeah,
location
there's
for
no going
free, and
back.
there's no going back,
Oh
it
my
was
gosh.
and that
We
was
had
the
a
only
situation with Harvey, we had, the kid who stars in the film, he's supposed to be like from a small town and live in like a trailer and with his mom and his dad's dead and all this depressing stuff, small town sadness, right? Well, the place we were going to film about 2 days before, and they didn't tell us their septic system blew up.
Oh god.
And I didn't even know it was on one, but we couldn't use the place. So I remember the day before, I like spent the whole day and I was like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And we ended up with a fairly nice location, but I was able to also let the actor stay there. We found an Airbnb that was willing to let us film.
Uh-huh.
But it looked kind of nice. We tried to trash it up with like beer bottles and, garbage in general, but it was a little bit nicer and everyone was like kind of disappointed. And I'm like, hey, the actors are bringing it. The audience hopefully will focus on that because it was the mother and the son where they live. And but I mean, it was the craziest thing to go wrong. I was just like, what?
Yeah, I
And
actually
thankfully I had a co-director, so I was able to like deal with some stuff while Johnny, like, he co-directed with me, Johnny Alonso, and he there were some times where like even my COVID test didn't come back and I couldn't come to set because it was union. And so he like stepped in, or I had him. We didn't do a 50-50 split on directing, but he was there when I needed him and he did quite a few scenes. Thank God. So
I honestly, because I had to film a feature film in 7 to 10 days. That was the I was in a
oh wow.
challenge, and so and of course, I wanted
Wow.
to make sure I got all those cutaways and I got those, cool shots,
Were you
so
working around the clock then? That
we
sounds like
were
some
working
long
around
days.
I literally passed out at a bar. My husband thought I had a heart attack because I literally, like, had drank a half a beer, and then I hit the
Oh
table
my
with my
god.
head, and they called the ambulance. I was fine. I never went to the hospital. It was fine. I was just exhausted.
You're
But
just tired.
I was
Oh.
just tired. But,
Oh my
yeah, my
god.
husband said he leaned over, and he knew I was okay when he heard me snoring.
Aw, that's sweet in a weird
But
way.
it's in a weird way. So it was a challenge, and
Yeah.
so what I did was because I had my DP, but I also had a DP I used for another project, and he was doing sound for us. So I said, "Okay, team two." So team two, I had
Oh,
them,
that's
and
great.
they gave them a list of things while we were shooting because I wanted to make sure that it didn't look like a $7,000 film. I wanted to have those, outdoor shots and the establishing shots, and so I
Yes,
was like,
yeah.
"Okay, team 2," and it worked out really well because my
That
first
was
day
smart.
yeah,
Very
my first day,
smart.
she's the director herself, so she was kind of, like, chomping at the bit. I was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna
Go.
trust you. Just go do it," and they did a great job. So I think too there's a lot filmmaking's it's such a team sport, and you really
It
have to
is.
trust the people that are around you. In my
You
situation, I
do.
was kind of, you know, thrown, but I really thought I thought it turned out really, really well, so I was very proud of all of
Is
us,
it
and
out now? Is it
I'm looking for distribution right now. I
Oh,
have the
so
trailer
cool.
out, so I'm out, pitching for distribution, and of course, I'm I'm all concerned about who to distribute it to. Are they going to steal it? I mean, it's like I'm going through this whole
Oh,
thing.
yeah,
So
it's so scary.
it is very scary, and
Yeah.
then people look at it, they say, well, it looks more like a TV show, and they think I should take it as a proof of concept and try to sell it. Like I have a friend that
You could sell it movie of the week,
I
and
get
then it
movie of
could
the
become
week.
a TV series.
Because it's got a military kind of thing to it, and it's women
Oh.
in military, and it's empowerment, so I had a friend, and he has a friend at Sony, and he told me that he would walk me into the room, but I
Oh,
have
I
to get
love him. That's
very yeah.
awesome.
He never does that for anybody, so I felt like, okay,
That means
he
he liked it.
he really did like it. So, anyway,
Yeah.
back to you, and
Oh,
you're
I'll be on the
so
lookout when it comes out. What's it
yeah,
called?
it's called Rogue Angel.
Rogue Angel. A cool
Yes.
name. Okay.
Yeah. So,
Oh.
anyways, I wanted to get back to your film,
Oh,
and I wanted
sorry.
you to no, don't be sorry. I'm always happy to plug my film, but I really wanted you to tell me what was the most difficult thing that you did during that shoot, besides the COVID, obviously.
Oh boy. There were a whole bunch, but the main things that were our challenges did center around COVID. I had weird things happen, like the I had two makeup artists just because we had such a tight schedule, and the bowling alley we were only allowed to film throughout the night when they were closed into like 10, 11 in the morning. And I had one girl tell me the day before that one of the makeup artists that she couldn't find a place to get a COVID test because she wouldn't do the nose swab. And so immediately I'm like looking for a makeup artist. I had one actor who had a lead role, a very big role, sending me, and he'll remain anonymous, but he was sending me fake COVID test results that you could find on the internet. And my nurse was freaking out, and so I had to replace him the day of that he's supposed to be there. I had to rewrite the schedule and find a new actor for him. I couldn't find it like a union actor, but I did find a really good actor. I was very happy with him that was local. But we
Mhm.
had to like redo the schedule, and instead of that being day 1, that had to be day 3, and all this. We just had crazy stuff, and all of it was around COVID. But we
Yeah.
survived, and it turned out good. I was happy in the end, but it was stressful. It was definitely stressful.
Yeah, I think,
So
we were lucky we didn't have anybody get COVID, which was great, and we were up in the mountains, so we were all pretty much except for the house
isolated.
inside the house scenes, everybody was
Yeah.
kind of everybody was pretty much separated, overall, except for
Oh,
maybe
that's
me.
good.
So we had fresh air, and so we were totally fine. The
Yeah.
only thing we didn't have was running water or electricity.
Oh my
That was
God, I
our
would have
big
missed that.
and
You
we
had
were on a
AC
hill.
though, right?
No, we did not. We didn't have anything.
Oh,
We
wow.
literally had to bring in our water, and then we had to bring in a tank so we could, like, wash our hands and make sure everybody was yeah, it was definitely the
Oh,
struggle was real.
wow.
But it was I mean, everybody looked at us like, "Hey, were the only ones that had no running water, no power. We had to bring batteries
You
galore
are
and
really gutsy. That is
yeah,
so awesome. Oh
yeah,
my god.
but it looks beautiful. Like that's why I think it looks like we spent so much money because it just looks
It's all
gorgeous.
in the production value, right?
Right.
And it sounds like you had an amazing location, even if it didn't have electricity, but
It was
w
beautiful. We you know,
wow.
you can't film up in Mount Charleston unless you get the pass from the forestry service, and they said it would take me 6 months. Well, my 2 weeks was coming up in like a month. So knew my girlfriend lived up there, so I called her. I'm like, "Hey," I go, "You still live in that house up there?" She's like, "Yeah." I go, "Would you mind if I brought 15 people up?" And she's like, "Sure, come
She
on
must
up."
love you.
Oh my god, I love her
15
dearly.
people, yeah.
Yeah, we literally, like, we pretty much destroyed her house. No, it was fine, everything was fine. She loved it, and she stunt drove for us because everything was up a hill, but the best thing was we buried a guy alive. So, she had a road, but she had to go up this steep road to her house, and then she had a turnabout. So what we did was,
Oh,
depending on which way we shot, we had the
yeah.
guy in the middle of the turnabout, and that was our burial spot, but we were all literally right next to the house. So we didn't have to
Wow.
worry about the forestry service.
That sounds so cool.
We
Oh,
had to get
wow.
really creative, but that's what you do when you film make, right? And it's
You took on a big project to
I
make your
did.
first feature film.
I
That's
feel like
impressive.
I felt like I hadn't been doing it, and I felt like because I am of a certain age, that I needed to prove that I could do this. So
Yeah,
I
me
was like,
too.
I had an opportunity, and I just went for it because I didn't have a job, so I was just gonna go
Why
for it.
not, right?
Right, right. So,
Right. Oh,
how
wow.
where can people find you and your
Um,
films?
so Harvey, you can find all over the place: Dish, DirecTV, Comcast, Apple TV, Amazon. It's if you go to midnightreleasing.com and type Harvey, most of the places that it's showing will pop up there.
Mhm.
Me personally, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Everything's under my name, Ranelle Golden. Hopefully there aren't too many of us.
Yeah, and also, Sherry sent me a press package, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it on the links below,
Oh, cool.
and then we'll put your trailer at the end of the
Oh,
podcast,
nice. Okay.
so that you can
Very,
go ahead.
very cool.
Yeah, so you can go ahead and share
Yay.
away. Was there a woman in film that inspired you to become a filmmaker?
Honestly, there wasn't, because I grew up in the music business, and when I got married, I mean, obviously, I had to choose, music or marriage and family, and I was kind of getting up there, pushing 30, and I was like, all right, I'll do the family thing. But because I lost my eyesight, I had a performing arts school. I had about 400 students, but because I lost my vision and had to close it, I fell into this. And what is really interesting about it for me personally, and probably not the rest of the world, but I honestly never knew that I could love anything as much as I loved music. And I love telling stories. Oh my gosh, it's in my blood. I try to stop or take a vacation, and these ideas pop in my head, and I'm back at it again. And it's so nobody really inspired me, but everybody inspires me, if that makes sense. Even the bad
No,
filmmakers, I
no.
love them.
Yeah, they're just gonna get better as they go along. That's the one thing. You can make a bad film, but your film's gonna get better as they go
Yes,
along,
each
right?
film, yeah, each film does get better, has a bigger budget, and
You go, "Oh, wait a
my
minute.
goal is
What's
this is
the
my
shot list?"
career.
Yeah, "What's a shot list?" "Oh, that's what it's for."
Yes,
Or, you know what I mean?
exactly.
So, "Oh, a storyboard? Okay, I got this
Yes,
now."
exactly, and I love
So
all those things now. They're, like, pivotal to whatever I do, and when I put together my pitch decks and my packaging, and my early career, I went to college for accounting, and I ran businesses.
that's
Um,
perfect. That's
yeah,
probably
and
needed
so they
more
it
in
blends
filmmaking.
nicely.
Yeah, more needed in filmmaking than anything.
Yes, so
You
I
have to
end up
be
helping a lot of people and mentoring them. "Oh, how do you make a budget? How do you this or that?" And
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
why, but I can never say no. "Oh, maybe don't put that in." So,
No, I totally hear you. So, this is super fun talking to you. So
thank you.
what's your next film?
I have two of them I'm working on. One of them I'm working with an EP right now, and he is raising funds, but it's called RockSlide, and it's about a aging rock star that he's his daughter is in his life, and she comes back in his life when she's a teenager because of a custody agreement. He finds out she has a knack for music, and his label's about to drop him because he's just not relevant anymore, and he steals her song.
Oh,
And
wow.
it comes full circle. It's kind of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but it's also got a
Parenting.
message to it
Yeah.
about the importance of family and, the true meaning of life. And then I have another one that my son and I wrote that one, and then my son and I were contracted to write this other film that's a true story that we're working on. And that's about a gentleman who, when he was young, he became the equivalent of a Chippendales dancer after running away from home. And you go through the trials of his life, and he ended up chief of police and retired as chief of police a couple of years ago. And that film very much has like a Forrest Gump
Oh,
feel to
that's
it.
great. I love
It's
that.
such a motivating film, and how you never give up and always stay positive. And the story's very cool, and it's interesting because the man is just as nice as Forrest Gump. Like, he's so sweet and kind. I cannot picture him as chief of police. I always tell him that. I'm like, you couldn't have been, but he was. I
That's
think he had like
awesome.
a 20-year career in law enforcement before
Wow.
he
Wow.
retired. So it's a cool story, and I'm hoping to be involved in its production as well. But you never know. These things aren't real until the money's in the bank and the camera rolls. So
I hear you. Well, it's been really fun talking to you, Ranelle.
thank you.
I would
You
love to have
too.
you on and do like a panel of women that are filmmakers and
Oh,
get
I
to
would
kind of
love
know each
that.
other. So yeah, so that's going to be the future for real women. So I'm going to keep you in my
Yay.
little phone Rolodex. And this is Real Women Celebrating Women in Film. My name is Brenda Daly. I'm your host, and today we celebrated Ranelle Golden. Thank you, Ranelle.
Listen, Karen and some of the other customers are complaining that you're being creepy and rude again.
Hey there, Harvey.
Can you just try to be nicer? Smile a little bit more?
I'm so sorry, Karen.
We all hate our jobs. Quit acting like you're the only one.
It ain't just my job I hate. I hate everyone and everything equally. Hey, hold on. I'm gonna get you out of here.
It's ketchup.
They'll come any dumber.
Great, that was perfect.
That man is a danger to women. You should be on my side.
Correction! I'm on the side of the bowling alley.
Hell's
I'm not waiting on you anymore.
Help! Someone help me!
Hey, John!
Help! Someone help me!
Sheriff, what brings you here today?
John Snyder's been reported missing by his wife. Do you think that Harvey had something to do with John's disappearance?
Harvey wouldn't hurt anyone. I still don't get why we can't go to the police.
You want to be an accessory to murder? He's worked here for a few years. He's okay.
Keep an eye on him.
I will.
Did you kill somebody?
I might be an asshole, but I ain't a killer.
You burn the body too? I always get my man.
I hate this town.
Talk to the sheriff. Turn yourself in. Let them find out the truth.
I'd rather pay the price than have an innocent person do that. How can you live with that,
Come
Keith?
on, man. How innocent is he really?
Listen,
I thought we were together on this.
No, we're not.
I think I killed someone, Jack.
Did you?